Equal Entertainment, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. Some Jeopardy champs are now refusing to work in solidarity with striking writers and actors. Contestant Ray Lalonde wrote on Reddit and Facebook that he will not participate in the Tournament of Champions during the strike. At least 4 other Jeopardy champions say they share the same sentiment. Jeopardy's team of writers is currently on strike, and so is host Mayim Bialik, as she is a member of SAG-AFTRA. Outspoken transgender icon and Jeopardy champion Amy Schneider also tweeted that she won't participate in any Jeopardy productions that don't use new clues written by unionized writers. Producers were hoping to use recycled questions and answers on the game show. Snoop Dogg is canceling his LA shows in solidarity with actors and writers. Snoop had already postponed the concerts originally set for late June and rescheduled them for October, citing the same solidarity with writers. Now the shows are canceled. The rap superstar announced the cancellations on Instagram, saying it's due to the uncertainty of when the strikes will be over. A London jury has found actor Kevin Spacey not guilty of sexual assault charges after a month-long trial. The jury acquitted him on 7 counts of sexual assault and 2 counts of other serious sexual offenses. The allegations covered a period between 2004 and 2013 when he was artistic director of the Old Vic Theatre in London. Tears rolled down Spacey's face as the verdict was read, and he mouthed the words "thank you" to the jury.
I'm enormously grateful to the jury for having taken the time to examine all of the evidence and all of the facts carefully before they reach their decision. And I am humbled by the outcome today.
Last year, a New York jury found Spacey not liable for battery on allegations stemming from 1986. It's not clear if or when Spacey could return to acting. Adele Bertay is one of the founders of the first all-queer women's no-wave punk-funk band, The Bloods. Now she has a new memoir out called Twist, An American Girl, where she discusses her upbringing and the challenges she faced growing up queer in the 1960s.
Sure. I mean, in terms of Twist, one of the other reasons I wrote it is because people don't know that we existed. Yeah. That girls were incarcerated in the 60s and 70s and were queer and, you know, had these lives, and that it crossed boundaries of race. And, you know, in a way, I can't tell the stories of the girls that I was incarcerated with, but I sure can speak for who we were and what our challenges were. And these are stories that are not told, that are not heard. And so I'm trying to make a little dent and be able to say, this is part of our history, you know? Mm-hmm. These heartbreaks are part of our history. And this is how one person healed. And hopefully maybe it can help somebody else, you know, who might be going through similar traumas.
It's imposed on you, this idea of shame, but I don't get shame or pathos from Maddie's queerness. And that is a really bold kind of direction. Would you talk about your earliest kind of awareness of your queerness and that kind of like being okay with it?
Well, oh boy, it was tough because, you know, when I was a teenager in 7th grade, I had my first love affair with another girl, and it was discovered. And, you know, I had, you know, practically the life beaten out of me because of it. I was so shamed. I mean, we're talking about the 60s, and if you were discovered in the 60s, you could literally lose your life. So it was a really hard time. But interestingly, when I was in the 2 reformatories that I spent time in as a teenager, we created our own societies within those institutions because we were not about to be robbed of our teenage, you know, feelings of budding sexuality and romance. So, you know, we were gay for the stay, most of us.
Twist, An American Girl is available now. If you grew up in the 90s, it's likely you had a Beanie Baby or two or a dozen. Now, that Beanie Baby craze has been captured in the movie The Beanie Bubble. The self-proclaimed guru of Beanie Babies, Ty Warner, actually stood on the shoulders of women. Before the actors' strike, Kristen Gore and Damian Kulash spoke with me about the little toys that caused a huge phenomenon. Congratulations on the Beanie Bubble. It's really fascinating to watch. And I'm going to go to you first, Damian, and ask you to share some of your memories of the Beanie Bubble bust, as well as talk a little bit about why this film or writing and directing this film resonated with you.
I have very few memories of the Beanie Babies themselves. I just remember thinking at the time, like, it's so crazy that people think a stuffed animal is a good investment. You know? But you know, we were in college at the time, so it was like sort of exactly the right age to miss something like that, because we weren't kids who could have been into toys, and we weren't like out in the larger culture where people would have been collecting them. And so it's mostly just a curiosity, why would any, like, how did this happen? And then when you peel back the layers and see that what's under there are the roots of so many things that feel like sort of societal ills now and for so long, that's what made it really interesting, is that we love telling stories through joy and sort of that absurd, surreal happiness. And to find a story that has the deep themes about America and American capitalism, and especially the female relationship to the American dream, that could be told in such a joyful way, was like a pot of gold.
Yeah, truly. Well, thank you for that. And Kristen, would you also share your memories of the Beanie Bubble or the Beanie craze back in the day, and what it means to you to hand back narratives to these three women who were denied their role in kind of helping build that empire?
Sure. I similarly was not very tuned in to the Beanie Baby craze when it was actually happening. I had the same sort of response of, that's strange and okay, and a little bit different than the toy crazes that you see come around. You know, we had Cabbage Patch when I was little, but this was Cabbage Patch. You know, didn't try to trade like stocks or go treat them like investments. And so I was aware that it was different and insane, but I wasn't that tuned into it. It wasn't until this book came along in 2015 by Zach Bissonette that I really got drawn into the story. But primarily the Beanie Babies and the bubble and the bursting of that being a really colorful backdrop to these other stories that we really wanted to tell. The women's stories were their journeys, were the stories that spoke loudest to us. And we talked a lot about the myth of the lone male genius that you see over and over again, you know, in all different industries throughout history, and we're very familiar with that story. And I think everyone is also now very familiar with how much more there always is to that story, and that it is so reductionist and a little bit wrong to just celebrate like one person when there's always so much more. There are always lots of people who contribute tremendously and often don't get any of the money or the credit, any of the attention. So since that happens over and over, and happened in our story in such poignant ways, it felt really crucial to us to shine a light on that aspect of it. That became the sort of organizing principle of our film.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for that. And the film has a very strong visual point of view. It's fun and poppy, but it also has this jumbled chronology, which I think is really interesting. And Damon, would you speak a little bit about how you arrived at some of the choices?
We wanted the film to be the women's film. We wanted to be the cycle that happened over and over again. We think in this company and with this man, but really with relationship to the American dream and in capitalism and sort of modern society in general. And had we told the story in a chronological way, it would have been the story of one product succeeding or one man making a lot of money. What we wanted to show was that underneath that there was a cycle that happened over and over again. And so
That's So Raven had us wishing we had psychic powers. Now raven-symoné says she might have those powers in real life. Raven said on a recent episode of the podcast she co-hosts with her wife that she believes she is psychic. That's not to say she can see the future as clearly as she could in the TV series. Symoné says she feels like she can tap into energy fields that allow her to feel things that have happened or will happen to her in another dimension. She said she is skeptical of fortune tellers, but believes she is connected to spirit guides. You can watch the Advocate channel live by downloading our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate channel, I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and thank you for watching.